we're going to start with the definition of stress. And I love to use a rubber band as an example. So rubber bands come to us and sit in our drawer till we use them. And when they're sitting in the drawer, they're at rest, at peace, at quiet, and we all need peace, rest, rejuvenation, time for that. But if we stay there too long, life becomes meaningless and without purpose. We want some challenge in our life, some challenge, some stress. We say yes, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about good stress. We want to be on purpose by being challenged now and then. And stretch, 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 say yes, yes, yes. But if we stretch too much, then we're in distress. We might even crack, snap, or break. We want to watch that. So it's important for us to know how often to say yes, how often to say no, how often to give ourselves some peace and rest and stillness and quietness so that we can maintain our well-being. Also, when we get distressed, we can end up doing harm to ourselves and maybe somebody that we love, or maybe somebody we're trying to like, at the workplace or elsewhere. I'm thinking about my mother-in-law, but forget about her. So it's important for you to imagine yourself as a rubber band and just how expanded you can handle. How much expansion can you handle, right? So that you can take good care of yourself. Now, I did promise that I would talk about related conditions, and I will in a minute, after I refer to a little bit of history of stress management. It was the psychologist out of Toronto, actually, here in Canada, Dr. Selye, who in 1936 coined the term stress, and he did lots of research, and there's still the Canadian Stress Institute was founded by him, and it is still functioning here in Canada and has lots of good research and information on that website. But Selye said that we need stress in our life, that life itself is stressful. So you can see his first book that was published was called The Stress of Life. And then he came along with stress without distress. And he made a distinction between healthy stress and too much stress. So he started off with coining the term eustress. Eustress is healthy stretch. It's that stretch that I talked about, that we want some challenge in our lives. We want some change. Have you ever had a job where it was just so boring and uninspiring that you wanted to learn something new, wanted change, wanted to have some stress in your life? And you looked for that challenge, that stress, because Selye came up with the definition that's on your handout, that stress is a response to daily challenges and pressures. We want sometimes to have deadlines. I appreciate that Manisha gives me a deadline for these sessions so that I can push myself a little bit, regardless of what's happening around me and in my family, to meet that deadline. It's a healthy stress that I have to meet the deadline. Then there's other situations where it's disappointing. What's happening is there's some stress on me, it doesn't work out. I'm doing some stress in my own brain about pushing myself, and it just won't work, and I just need to settle for what is. And then there is a point where we have super stressed out point, and he called that distress, a point of distress. So I want you to remember there's healthy stress and there's distress. In your handout, I have made an offer to send you an inventory that will help you evaluate in the last 12 months whether you have moved from your stress to just in the middle to distress. A year of distress often requires us to take extra special care of ourselves. In 2011, I had a distressful year. I remember the Queen of England, when Diana and Charles were going through a divorce and there were other problems in the family and in the royalty. The Queen said, "This has been a horriblest year, just a horriblest year." And so sometimes we have distress to the point where we might call it a horriblest year. Other related conditions are these, and these phrases are thrown a lot around in the media and elsewhere, but it's useful for us before we start saying, I'm feeling anxiety or I'm having an anxiety attack, to know exactly what it is. So chronic stress is extreme stress, and it includes the other three terms underneath it. When you're experiencing chronic stress, you're either experiencing anxiety, depression, or trauma. And as your learning guide indicates, anxiety is stress that includes fear, worry, and sometimes panic attacks where it feels like you're going to die, that you can't take your next breath, and the breath starts to be in the chest and panicked. And I'm not talking about good sex. That's different. So the second one, the depression, is, thank you for laughing, Sarah. Where was I? Yes, depression includes overwhelming sadness, a stuckness, a hopelessness, a powerlessness, very low energy, dragging yourself around. And it's like there's so much stress, I've sort of given up on myself and the world. And trauma is extreme stress from, historically, a life-threatening or well-being threat. So whether you've been sexually abused, and much of our childhood is sitting in our bodies in trauma, and then when we get a familiar experience, somebody, for example, I was physically abused, my dad yelled at us a lot. If somebody yells at me, I have tended in my history to get triggered, and it looks like stress. I look and act like I'm stressed out, and yes, it is stressful for me, but somebody else that might hear my husband yelling might not have the stress response. So trauma often pulls us back to a life-threatening experience. It might be a car accident, it might be domestic violence, it might be being hit or spanked, or any kind of abuse as a kid, and that includes neglect, by the way. And trauma, depression, and anxiety can all be treated in therapy. Stress, a few tools will help with what we would call a generic stress situation. We need to be reminded of what's involved with having a healthy lifestyle where our stress is to the point that we've got some healthy challenge, but we're not overwhelmed with distress. And these are just basic categories. They're on your handout, and I recommend you just take a look and score yourself from 0 to never to always 10. How do you take care of your safety? Are you one of those people we still see talking on the cell phone while you're driving? Have you got your seatbelt on? Have you got a fire extinguisher in your home? Basic safety. And number 2, medical care. Are you still seeing the doctor at least annually to check up on how you're doing? Diet. Billion-dollar business about number 3 and number 4. Eat less, move more. My weakness is I tend to get into creative projects and put exercise on the back burner. The diet, did you know that 80% of headaches are created by dehydration, and we need to be drinking more water? And of course, our fruits and our vegetables. Exercise and rest. Yes, I said I was weak. And rest, I'm a napper. If I can nap, it rejuvenates me. I probably have a nap at least 3 times a week. And it's important to get enough sleep. Sleep causes more accidents than anything else. And do you take care of your emotional well-being? Are you able to name your feelings and where in your body you experience them? And mental. Your mental well-being is crucial to stress, because it doesn't matter whether you see a rope on the sidewalk or a snake on the sidewalk, you may have a distressed flight, fright, or freeze response. So your brain tells you, that's a snake, that's dangerous, just like in a nanosecond. So mental health is incredibly important to stress management. And social well-being has been well documented, especially during COVID-19. We have huge concerns, and rightly so, for anybody who is isolated, particularly seniors. People who are isolated are 30% more likely to create dementia. The World Health Organization last year announced that loneliness was a worldwide mental health crisis. We need to know who supports us, and if you don't have people who support you, who build you up when you're down, depressed and anxiety, or just simple stress there for you, then find them, make new friends, explore in your circle how you can make your circle wider so you can find that support socially. I am very blessed. When I had technology problems about a month ago with a presentation, my son drove over to help me, and I was stressed out. And then the session ended at 3:30. It was 3:30 or 4, and at 5 o'clock he called and he said, "Mom, do you need me to come over? I haven't seen you stressed out like that for a long time. I would be happy to come over and hold you if that would be helpful." That is the kind of support that we want to have. And I remember years ago when one of my kids ended up needing to go into a treatment center, and I was doing a lot of shaming on myself. And I phoned my friend Rhea, and she said, all you need to do is have somebody hold you while you cry. And she brought her lunch from downtown, sat on the couch, and I curled up on her lap, and she ate her lunch while I cried. So find those people in your life, okay? And last but not least, if you have you don't have to go to church, but have some sense that there's a bigger picture for you. You're here, something brought you into this world. Call it God, call it energy, call it spirit, but you were given gifts, and my wish is that you give your gifts. Point number 3 is about freeing your body. And our bodies don't lie to us, but our thoughts can tell us all kinds of stories that aren't actually true. So we have to take care of our body and listen to it. So I want you to identify your body distress symptoms. Now, all the way from the top of your head to your toes, you have a signal, a stress signal, a distress signal. When I get up in the morning and this eye twitches like this, I know that I'm not eating properly, exercising enough, or resting enough, and I have to backtrack and take better care of myself. Years ago, when I had younger children and didn't take care of myself, I didn't have much of a self-care plan. I used to get strep throat, flus, irritated bowel syndrome attacks, eczema between my fingers, the cardiac arrhythmia attack was dreadfully scary, and irritated bowel syndrome attacks incredibly painful. Those are not whispers. The eye twitch is a whisper. So if I take care of that, I'm not going to get the others, like a 2x4 over my head. So we're going to do 30-second quickies here, and I'm going to invite you to stand up and just listen to my voice. So I want you to stand up. I'm going to stand up myself. Oh, we don't disappear. Can you just see here? It's all a new experiment for me. Whoop, there I am. All right. I see people standing up. Very good. I want you to take your fingers and see if you can touch the ceiling of wherever you are. Try to touch the ceiling and go right up on your tippy toes as high as you can. These are all no more than 30 seconds long that we're going to do. And I just notice any tension in your body. Let your heels go down the floor and let everything flop down. Okay, I want you to take your shoulders and squeeze your ears. We carry a lot of responsibility across our shoulders. If you have a lot of responsibility, really pay attention to your shoulders. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. And when you're ready, notice the breath and let go. Phew. All right, now I want you to cross your arms. Cross your arms. Very good. I can see you doing that. Lovely. Squeeze. Now just look down and see if you're hugging somebody you like. Am I hugging somebody I like? That's the question. Come on back up. I hope the answer is yes. And cross your arms around the other way. And squeeze yourself. Tight, 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 tight. During COVID-19 and physical distancing, when you're ready, let go. During COVID-19 and all this physical distancing, we have to get our touching needs met in other ways. I want you to hug yourself again, and this is called the butterfly hug. It's being used with kids and adults all over the world. They help them calm trauma. It's a very calming behavior to do. All right, now I'll let you sit down again. We're going to do one last little 30-second quickie. Just a matter of noticing your body where you're holding tension, make it tight, and let it go again. Some people actually have tight hands. You can squeeze your hands tight and then let go. I want you to rub your hands together like this. And then you decide, I want you to pay attention to the top of the crown of your head. And I want you to pay attention whether you want to cup your forehead or whether you want to cup your eyes. And I'll just give you 30 seconds to do that. You've got nice warm hands, and I'm cupping my eyes. Maybe if you're a teeth grinder, you might want to cup your jaw. And take a breath in and let go. All right. The Stress Institute found out that if once or twice a day, their research subjects checked in on their body and found a place of tension and then attended to it, just like we did, that their stress levels came down 50%. 50% is incredibly significant. Okay? And then always add the breath. The breath is so affirming in many ways. It brings us in the present moment. It reminds us sort of a divine presence. It calms us down. It tells the parasympathetic system, the nervous system, to calm down. It brings back functioning in the prefrontal cortex. It calms down the amygdala, that stress firing mechanism we have in the old brain of ours. Yeah, we don't need to be fleeing or fighting as much as we do. Which brings me to how we often put ourselves in a state of incredible distress by our thoughts. So we want to pay attention to our thoughts. And powerful, incredibly powerful to do that. I hope you love my my little gifts. I had fun getting them ready for you. This is a guy called W. Mitchell. He's a fairly well-known professional speaker. He's been in my home one time for a workshop that I hosted. He's down in California somewhere. I've lost track where he's living. And W. Mitchell was in a fire. I forget all the details, but his whole body was on fire, and he lost some parts of his nose, parts of his fingers, etc. So he's walking around as a burn survivor. And then he got his pilot's license, and he ended up crashing an airplane. And that ended up, after that, he ended up in a wheelchair. Now, Mitchell is well known for his message, and it goes something like this. It doesn't matter what happens to you, what matters is what you do with it. He also talks about, yes, I lost 1,000 activities that I could do, and I still have 1,000 I pay attention to. So his basic message is about controlling what you can control and focusing on that. I have a line I use with parents, and it's good for using for relationships. It's good for using for yourself. What you focus on expands. If you focus on everything that you lost and what you don't like about COVID-19, that will become your reality. What you focus on gets bigger. And if you focus on some of the benefits and some of the challenges, actually. So, I mean, I learned to do Zoom and do presentations online fairly quickly. I also learned how to do counseling online fairly quickly. Took up the challenge. So when you think about W. Mitchell, he had very little influence over what happened to him. So I want you to think about this is on page 3 of the handout, what you have little influence over, and where you have little influence, it's useful to just let it go rather than stewing about it. So we Canadians love grumbling about the weather, don't we? Now we do have some influence with government. We can place our vote. We can also write letters to our policymakers if we want to make change. But where we have more influence, right, I forgot I put that in. Yes, okay, stuff happens and we may have very little influence. But where we do have influence is over my health, my finances, my relationships, my partnership. Hopefully I've got influence over my partner, my children. Although I have a daughter who spent 11 years in and out of jail with 40 convictions, and I wrote a book called Love Her As She Is, Lessons from a Daughter Stolen by Addictions, and that is I don't have control over anybody, but I can influence. And how did I influence? I got myself really, really well. So the one day when I was visiting her in jail, she basically said, I'm paraphrasing, "Gee, Mom, when I really look at you, you look like somebody I can trust." So that's the biggest influence you can make on the world, is making yourself mentally, physically, emotionally, as well as you can, and minimize your stress. And I quit making her a stressor, right? This book, Love Her As She Is, tracks how I was so stressed out. I was guilting her to change so that she would minimize my stress. Nobody can minimize your stress like you. And where do you have total control is your goals, your values, your thoughts, your feelings, your words, your behavior. That's where you can take charge. Which brings me to one of the most beautiful sayings in all the world, is the Serenity Prayer. And if you don't know it, please find it on the internet. I have a poster in my office to remind me of this beautiful saying that has been used for years and years by the 12-step programs. Grant me the serenity to accept what I cannot change, the courage to change what I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. So I encourage you to make a sign if that works for you and post it up. It's an incredible minimizer of distress. The other tool that I'm offering here is avoid stepping into the drama triangle. I've mentioned the drama triangle before in these sessions, but it is a very effective tool for noticing when you are so stressed out that you're not communicating in a clear way. And most of us step into the drama triangle at one time or another. It creates conflict, and it creates conflict in relationships as well as stress in relationships. On my website, there's a link to this poster that you can download, and articles that describe how to use it, also on my website, that help people to get out of these roles that only cause stress for one another. I'm going to read you a script, and I want you, if you've got a pen handy, write down the name Ethel and the name Hank, and there's a visitor. So I want you to see this picture. Hank and Ethel are at home, and they have somebody visiting them. And I want you to notice when Ethel speaks and acts like an attacker or a bully or a blamer, and when somebody acts like a rescuer, they're an angel and gonna fix it all, I'll fix you, I'm just so loving, I'll fix you, or a victim, meaning I am hopeless and helpless and I need other people to pull my life together. I'm gonna read this script for you. So Ethel and Hank are at home with a visitor. Ethel says to Hank, "Turn the TV off when we have visitors. You are so rude, you jerk." You got it? Nod your head. Yeah, okay. Hank to Ethel, "Stop bossing me around like a banshee. You're always at me." Got it? Hank to visitor, "See what she is like? She never leaves me alone to watch TV in peace." I hope you got that was a victim. Ethel to Frank, "You poor thing, that's because you have no purpose in your life, dear. If only you would volunteer at the church, it would be all fixed." You got it? Okay. Ethel to visitor, "He doesn't ever care about what I want. He just puts me in the back burner. Nobody pays any attention to me." Okay, so I hope you got that. Ethel is now playing victim. Ethel to Hank, "Turn the TV off, you inconsiderate idiot." And then the visitor says to Ethel and Hank, "Please stop fighting. Maybe I could teach you how to talk with manners." And then Hank says to the visitor, "How dare you talk like that to me and my sweet wife?" So most arguments go round and round and round in the drama triangle, and people tend to get triggered and not function very well in their communications. So this little chart helps you notice when you are in the drama triangle. Remember, you can't change anybody else, so be the one to change, and how to get out. And please choose uplifting thoughts and words. These words are on your handout again, and these words get you in trouble. These thoughts create stress. When you think that the world never, I hear this over and over again. No one ever gives me credit. No, my husband never told me my husband never told me that he loved me. Well, he couldn't have got through the marriage ceremony without saying it. I'm sure he'll let you know if he's changed his mind, right? So these words are on your handout. They're listed there. They're words that, if you minimize them, you'll find that you're using them you use them anyway in ordinary language, but it's useful to minimize them and really figure out what it is you want to communicate. When you say to somebody you never help, you are telling them that they never, ever help. That's why people get affronted. And then you've got conflict and stress in your relationship. It's the same with always. You always leave your underwear on the floor. Was that true? Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday you left your underwear on the floor. I'd really appreciate if you put it in the laundry basket, right? Okay. So there's some words. If there's any words that you want to learn more about, just send me an email. Because and here are the words to up in your languaging. So use feeling words. Say thank you as much as you can. Remember, we have an influence on other people. If we focus on what we're thankful for, that will expand. And call those challenges, those stressful moments, call the challenges challenges, and call the stressful moments challenges as well. Okay, I'm going to round us up here. And the last point is about lighten up with, here's 3 tips to lighten up. So first of all is to develop an attitude of gratitude. And this has been proven over and over and over again in research that when we have an attitude of gratitude, we minimize our stress. And view your personal hang-ups as a personal joke. I remember another time that my husband, he's only said this word twice in our marriage. I've been married 52 years, by the way. One time, he got really frustrated, and we were about 5 years into our marriage, and he said, "F you, Patricia," and I cried and thought our marriage was over. How could he talk to me like that? Well, it was about 3 years later that he said it again. And I winked and said, "When, dear?" Hope you're laughing. do you see 50% of the communication is what's sent, and the other 50% is how you interpret it. So your brain, the thoughts you're telling yourself, first time I'm really stressed out, ready to get a divorce, and the second time I make it as a personal joke. And please, spend time with children or watch Disney or any other way that you can find to lighten up and know that life is too short. Ready? So take a breath. Feel your feet on the floor. Rest your eyes. This is, you can rest on a table, on your desk, or you can close them. It's up to you. Just want you relaxed. Notice your shoulders if there's any tension. Breathe into them, let them go. And I'll try to sing it sweetly. So she asked me to end today's session with a little song. So, on a clear day, rise and look around you, and you will see who you are. On a clear day, how it will astound you that the glow of your being outshines every star. You'll feel part of every mountain, sea, and shore, and you'll hear from far and near sounds you've never heard before. On a clear day, you will see forever and ever and evermore. May you be frantic-free.